future of talk is here. Power 102 Digital.
Yes, it's definitely right here at Power 102. This is Power 102 Digital Friday. Welcome to Hard Talk with host Rondell Fields. Good afternoon, Rondell, and how are you?
Good afternoon, David. I'm fine. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm going to leave you to introduce your co-host, if I should call him that. Before I do that, just let me run by these contact numbers for people to join in on the program. Folks, you can join me at 222-8255, 222-8255, 866-525-1099. That's our toll-free number, 866-525-1099. Or you can contact us via WhatsApp at 318-12-1021. That's 318-1021. Yes, Mr. Fields, the floor is all yours.
Yeah, David. First of all, let me say a lovely good afternoon to Trinidad and Tobago. And I must, from the bottom of my heart, express sincere gratitude to Power 102 for giving a voice to such an important segment, giving a voice to such an important type of advocacy. Just to do a backdrop on what the Single Fathers Association, what we do at the Single Fathers Association, we are now called actually the Fathers Association in Trinidad and Tobago. I know most people know us as the Single Fathers Association popularly. But just for those who don't know, we have been formed over the last 12 to 13 years, and we have since from foundation started fighting for the rights for fathers to be part to equitably parent their children. This journey has been a journey that's been intertwined with a number of issues pertaining to access, pertaining to custody, pertaining to maintenance, pertaining to parental child abduction. We've dealt, and I think most of Trinidad and Tobago knows that. They've seen us on a number of videos via social media, seen us on the national television, seen us before joint select committees, advocating for the rights of parents generally. We understand the value of fatherhood in families, but we also appreciate the value of mothers in families also. We understand the value of co-parenting in families, and that's one of the things we are champion of. That's one of the things that we advocate heavily for in Trinidad and Tobago. With me today, my guest, my other panelists aren't here as yet. Maybe they will log on afterward. This is Mr. Nicholas Lee. Mr. Nicholas Lee. And I mean, on this segment, we want to be able to highlight issues that are present and occurring in Trinidad and Tobago. Today, I think it's only right. This is an issue that I've been dealing with for the last week or so. It's an issue that pertains to maintenance, child maintenance. And let me just talk a bit about child maintenance for your listeners so they will understand what it is. Most of us know or presumably supposed to know what child maintenance is. This is the financial upkeep or an order that is made by the court for the financial upkeep of a child, most times to be paid by the non-custodial parent. Custodial parent is the person who has been ordered by a court or a family court or a magistrate court with the rights for the child to have a residence with them, and they would have primary care of the children. The custodial parent who has care and control of that child. Most times the non-custodial parent is most times ordered a payment to assist with the upkeep of the child. This payment is known as maintenance payment. We colloquially in Trinidad and Tobago has given it a number of names, but generally that is what maintenance is. And I think today we want to go into the laws around child maintenance and the facts and the issues and the challenges. Is it something good? Is it something bad? Is it having a negative impact on parenting? Is it a positive thing for parenting? And I know it's normally a very contentious topic. So, I mean, I'm looking definitely to hear the views of the public and their views after we have this discussion. Mr. Nicholas Lee, who's my guest here today, is someone who is known to the association over a period of time. I will just give you a little synopsis. He will go into the story because, as I said, we want persons who are going through these struggles who we are assisting to come on and give these stories so people will see that these things are live and active and current in our country. Some of the issues that we deal with on a daily basis are the fathers, or for those who know us, as the Single Fathers Association in Trinidad and Tobago. I would say no more. I would just say that Mr. Lee would have just been released on a child maintenance warrant. Mr. Lee is known to us from some years ago. where we would have assisted him in when he had an issue with child maintenance before. But I would leave this story to Mr. Nicholas Nee. As he starts the story, I will then go into further details as into how we go into assist him. And then we're going to start to tear apart the entire Maintenance Act, take a look at it and see if we are actually doing what is in the best interest of the child, the best interest of the custodial parent, and the best interest of the non-custodial parent. So Nicholas, give us a little fall back on the story or the issue that you would have faced recently within the last month or so.
Good evening to the panel. Thanks for having me. My name is Nicholas Lee. On the 6th of February 2024, I was incarcerated on an old child maintenance warrant. Right? My occupation, I'm a police officer. On the 6th of February, I was incarcerated on an old maintenance warrant for 28 days. It was tough.
So Nicholas,
I came out on the 4th of March, but within that period, I am a
give us a little history as in the number of children that you have. Give us a history as into what you think or the reason you may think that you may have been incarcerated, how it led to you not being able to pay the maintenance, the child, the age of the child at this point in time.
All right. Well, I'm a father of 4 children. My biggest daughter is 18 years of age. We never had a relationship. That is the one I've been paying child maintenance for. I have sole custody of my last 3 children. I am in care, control, and custody of these last 3 children.
So that means you were ordered that by the court. You were given care and control for your last 3 children.
Yes, I was.
All right. Are you receiving a maintenance of any of those 3 children from the mothers?
To be honest, no.
Good. Continue.
I didn't pursue them because, I'm the father and I choose to take care of my children. But when it comes to my first child, right, we don't have a relationship. It has been tough knowing that okay, I was also in an accident on the 20th of August 2022 whilst reporting back to the station from duty.
Right.
And knowing that I was in an accident, right? And knowing that I also have 3 other children to take care of. Everybody thinks that a police officer does work for $1 million a month. It's not so, especially when you have these children, your children, which I as a man will not ever turn my back on. And I will always put them before everything else. And this warrant came upon me and I had no choice. I didn't have the money because salary cut. I can't pay my rent, I can't pay my maintenance, and these are 3 children before being incarcerated. I had to find some way to send them. So I had to split up my 3 children who together for the past, my biggest son, my only son, 15. He's 15, 14, and 10. And I had to separate them. Upon separating them, currently now I am before the court where my last child mother has brought me up for custody of my last child. After 10 years raising that child from 0 to 10. Well, not from 0 to 10, from after birth to 10 years. I won't talk much on that because that's before the court at the moment.
Very good. So what I'm saying, so Nicholas, let me ask you something. When you went, well, I know it was a committal warrant for those who may not understand, and just for education purpose, while Nicholas speaks, I will try to explain for those listeners who are listening, particularly men and women who pay maintenance, or those men and women who are custodial parents. Firstly, Nick, you said something about that. You said that you as a man didn't think it was important for you to apply for maintenance. But I need you to understand, and as I always tell men also, men need assistance also. You are bearing the weight of the custodial care financially, primarily for 3 children, while you have to now find the pay maintenance to the 4th. At some point in time, it's going to become a struggle. Your bills are going to add up, and you're going to end up in some critical issue if you have to pay a maintenance to somebody else. You are not the first person that has happened to. So I want to encourage persons who are custodial parents, irrespective of your gender, you have the right under the law to apply for assistance from the other party. It is a stereotype that men take upon themselves that, hey, I already have custody and I as a man should not ask for assistance via the court or via any other means to the upkeep of my child. Bills and reoccurring bills are real in this time. Children need financial care as well. And a man, just as a woman, I just said, you're a police officer. I know you're a SRP police officer as well. You don't, and you will not be able to shelve all these bills by yourself. That's the first thing. Another question. Did you ask, or did you, at any point in time, because if it is a committal warrant, just for education purpose again, the process goes like this. For a committal warrant to be issued and you be taken directly to jail, it means that you were brought before the magistrate under section 27 2B and given time to pay the maintenance. And then they would have action section 27.3 when you were arrested. While brought before it became a committal warrant, and it was just a warrant that you came to appear before the magistrate, did you disclose to the magistrate your circumstance and the fact that your imprisonment would have been actually jeopardizing the 3 children in your care's life?
Well, prior to the committal and serving time, this warrant would have came out before, I think, before the accident.
Right. No, whether
so
or not.
I would have been.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would have been working, but every time I go before the court and a warrant come out, I will get time to pay. So once I start to pay on that warrant, which means I have to budget. Yeah, I have to budget my salary. I say, all right, this going for this. I have to pay my rent here. I have to buy this, picture, and I have to do the other stuff. So whilst I might be able to pay off the whole warrant when I pay piece, by the time I already to almost done pay off that one, and next one come out.
Right.
And so that's how I keep going and going and going. So from the time I pay off one, then I say, when I pay off one, 2 come out. I get time for them to start this one, and next one come out. So she always a step ahead.
So I'm asking again, at any point in time, even though you were finding ways because you were employed at the time as a police officer, right, before the accident on the job, right?
Yeah.
At any time, did you make known to the magistrate of your living condition, meaning that you were a parent and you were a custodial parent of 3 children and you were not receiving maintenance? Was the magistrate ever aware of that?
Yes, Mr. Fields. And many times I appeared before, I always mention I have 3 other kids. I always mention that to her. But again, most times they say, well, this is your child as well, and this is a responsibility. And as a man, as a father, I never say no. I never shun it. But most times when a man goes before the court, I'm saying this out as a father, as a police officer, and a person before the court, in the court. I have seen many times that the court most times shift towards the woman. Right? And I'm not saying that to bash the court or anything like that, because I have custody of my last 3 children.
Right. I understand. The reason why I'm asking you that And once again, while Mr. Lee speaks, I'm going to be putting advice out there for those of you who have maintenance issues, maintenance or custody issues. If you have persons who need to hear this information, we encourage you guys to let them know to listen to the show, because this is information that will be vital to them, both custodial parent and non-custodial parent. I'm asking that because many people may be unaware of what is in our family law at section 27, subsection 4. It states that once you cannot be found culpably neglectful of paying your maintenance, a magistrate should never commit you to prison. So it means in instances where you can show that I have 3 children, I'm not receiving a maintenance at this point in time, a magistrate, based on the current laws that we have, has a number of legal or legislative works that they can use to prevent you from having to be incarcerated. One of the things magistrates can use in a situation, particularly where you are seeing that, hey, if we imprison this man, it may be counterproductive to his children, counterproductive to the very same child himself. He may lose his employment as a police officer. His life may be put at risk as a police officer, going to be incarcerated as well. I wanted to share that part of your story after as well. We have section 27(2)(a), where goods and chattels that can be seized can be held instead of imprisoning a man for maintenance. Then, additionally to that, as I made mention in section 27, subsection 4, the magistrate is compelled not to imprison any person who they could notice or realize or assess in their fairest and best judgment has not been willingly neglectful of their children or the paying or the maintenance. And that is something that I think needs to be addressed. That is not your issue, because I have seen magistrates myself in other instances when the mothers pay maintenance and the mother may be pregnant or the mother may have other children, they utilize the law in section 27(4) to forbid them from being incarcerated. So I ask myself, why in your instance, if a magistrate, that's why I specifically asked you, if the magistrate was made aware of your particular situation, knowing that you have 3 dependents, and it would be counterproductive for you to be imprisoned, and they now have to find somewhere to stay, have to find someone to provide for them. Your job as well made you a bigger risk than the average man to send you to prison also. I ask myself why the magistrate didn't choose another alternative, which is in section 21(2) of the Family Act, where she could suspend maintenance and revive it at any either point. So I say this to people who are listening, non-custodial parents, who many times find themselves in an honest situation where they are not being willingly neglectful, but they are in a justifiable cause for them having challenges to make the maintenance payment that is required. So I say this for lawyers listening who should be using this legislation, for magistrates listening who should be using this legislation, so that our first approach is not imprisoning persons for non-payment of child maintenance. And as we go along, we will show the counterproductive sides of imprisonment of persons, particularly those that you can definitely understand or see or perceive that it is not that they are being willingly neglectful, but definitely, as in your case, and in cases like other people, like Mr. Anson Mohammed, who had kidney failure and was still about to face imprisonment, that the courts and the magistrates need to start utilizing section 27(4) when there are instances where non-custodial parents are ill, non-custodial parents have terminal illnesses, non-custodial parents have other dependents, non-custodial parents may have fallen on hard times genuinely, that they start using section 27(4) when it comes to men as well. So give us an experience, Nicholas. Give us your experience on the incarceration. Because I have heard so many stories from men who've been incarcerated. Some gentlemen have told me that they are the ones that have to vault everything. They are the ones that have to hide everything. They are the ones that are actually the lowest on the food chain. Some of them say the lower than even the rapists on the food chain. Give me an experience of how it was, more so as a police officer. Did they put you in the cell or they put you in the infirmary? What was the experience?
I was incarcerated on the high security section.
Right.
Where in that section, it was about roughly 18 prisoners there. 18.
You seem to have lost Nicholas there. Nicholas, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. You hear me?
All right, good. Yeah, hearing you again.
Yeah. And
You were saying?
yeah, in that section, the maximum security section of that prison, I won't call it prison name, but the maximum security section of that prison, it had like roughly 18 or 19 inmates on that wing. And 12 of us was there for maintenance.
12 of you all?
Two of us was there for maintenance, and the rest for other major offenses. I won't call you offenses, right? But it's not a nice place to be, knowing that you're here for maintenance and you're a police officer amongst these other persons.
So there was no segregation, not just so as you being a police officer. Was there any segregation, meaning that you had a minor offense? You made you alluded to more serious offenses. I don't know the degree. I'm guessing there's serious offenses, criminal offenses.
No,
is it that they just lumped everybody together?
I was actually amongst other officers, but they were there for other offenses.
Serious offenses.
Serious offenses. Right?
Okay.
But what I'm trying to say, in my case, I work at a section where me, does have to be in the jail every single day, or in the court every single day, or in the cell block every single day, picking up, dropping off, interacting with these prisoners. And I was placed amongst them.
Among the same, some of the same persons.
Yes, I was fearful because the first 2 nights I was sliced up. But then these people, they realize that I still have to go back out into society and be a police officer. So that is what saved me. That I have to come back out there and be a police officer.
So what they said? They said I got slice you up. So
yeah.
So so as a police officer, no special provision was made for you with the prisons, with the prison officers aware that you were a police officer.
Yes, they were aware. Like I said, they put me in the maximum security section of that prison, and I was amongst other I should say colleagues who are there for major offenses. Right.
I understand where you're coming from. So,
but
as we thought,
around us, there were other inmates.
Persons they don't want to make mention of.
Yeah, and these other officers, the offenses, they will get a respect from the other inmates.
Right. So what you're saying, a man with maintenance not going to get that respect from the other guys around, based on his offense compared to theirs.
If you are not a person who holds an office in this country, and you're getting incarcerated for maintenance, you're in problems. I was fortunate. I'm being honest. I was fortunate. Even though it had the little threats and stuff, I was fortunate. Because of my of the job I hold.
So, I mean, I want Trinidad and Tobago to consider that. I want you all to think about incarceration. Yes, Nicholas' scenario is a little more, I would say, sensitive because he's a police officer. But I want you to think about scenarios like I've seen. Guys, I remember the case of Mr. Bino, who was actually disabled. He came out of a car to help somebody who was in an accident, and a car knocked him over, and then he was put on a disability grant. These kind of guys who are disabled, guys who are not police officers, but guys who are not criminally inclined or have no criminal offense, being placed in a space with persons with a high degree of criminal behavior, incarcerated or suspected or charged for crimes of a very high criminal degree. And we need to understand if that is the best way to do things. I've heard those guys come out, the same one, some guys just that came out and have also told me that not only are they made to vault inside of the prison, but even when they come out and they have more maintenance to deal with, more maintenance warrants that will be taken out for them, that they are sometimes forced to, or at least to consider, hiding guns, hiding drugs, because they now need to come out and find some way to earn an income to offset the bill that they were going to have to pay, or they will be regurgitated back into the cycle again. And that is what I want us to address. I see so many opportunities in the legislation as it is already written. I see so many alternatives, particularly as we have established, where the law wanted to use imprisonment as a last resort for persons who have gone through every other protocol and have decided that, hey, what, are just going to be negligent or I just don't have a care behind the child. Not in instances where persons are trying, not in instances where persons lost their jobs. I remember when persons lost their jobs in ArcelorMittal, the number of men who were gainfully employed before who ended up in jail because they lost their employment. When Petrotrin closed down, some of these big places were closed down and these men couldn't pay their maintenance. When we're looking at it, is it more sensible to imprison a person, particularly someone we know who has no criminal inclination? Send him, first of all, upon his imprisonment, he may lose his form of employment. Send him into the prison system. While he's in the prison system, then allow him to mingle with persons who may negatively influence him. Send him back out into our society. And while he's in prison, mind you, the AG gave us a figure of $30,000 per month. You maintain that man in prison, or that woman if she hasn't paid maintenance as well. Spit them back out after with no employment, no negatively influenced. What are we really doing in our society? There are so many alternatives that the law provides, as I said before, Section 27A, Section 27.2A, where the seizure of goods, the seizure of chattels, if the person have a car, you could seize it. Why aren't we making suggestions through the same Section 27.2A as well, where we introduce the ankle bracelet? And on introduction of the ankle bracelet, then we, if it's putting them in a place where they could earn an income or allowing them to still be able to earn an income so they could satisfy what the maintenance purpose is for. The purpose of maintenance is for the financial upkeep of the child. When the man or even the woman or non-custodial parent goes to prison, who minding the child? Why the state pays $30,000 to mind him for a month or $60,000 if you give him 60 days? The child is outside for $3,000 maintenance. It is time, and I have continued to lament on these issues pertaining to maintenance of children in our society and addressing not the Maintenance Act, because the law has provision for better behavior, but address the way our judicial officers are treating with the legislation. Nowhere in the law says that your first approach must be to automatically imprison anyone unless you see them as culpably deserving to be imprisoned. You cannot see an instance where a gentleman who is a police officer, who has 3 children, who he is the sole caretaker of, sole financial caretaker of, and physical caretaker of, and a magistrate not utilize the laws that are before them and not imprison him. The law said you shall not commit them to prison. These are things that we've raised in joint select committees. These are things that we've raised on television shows. These are things that we've raised on radio stations. And nothing is being done. Nothing is being done. So, Nicholas, what is the scenario with you now? I heard you made mention that since you've been out, tell us the experience now about the reintegration. Because now your children have dealt with fathers who've been incarcerated, and then when they come out, I've dealt with another police officer like Corey Francis, you may know him as well, who was in a very similar situation to you, taking care of 2 children while paying maintenance for another. And when he came out, knowing that he was an officer, his sons were disappointed to know he was imprisoned. How has that reunion been since you've been back out? I know your children are teenagers. What were the first things that they've had to say with you since you've been back out? How long have you been out now?
I came out on the fourth. I came out on the 4th of this month, which is March.
Right.
And I usually, things that I know would affect my children, I would ask them how they felt. My daughter, who's 14 years, she said she felt angry and sad at the same time. But you know what hurt me the most? You know what hurt me the most? That my son is 15 years. And when I said son, because he was separate from my 2 sisters. Like I said, my last daughter right now, I'm heading to a court battle for custody, which right now I have full custody of that child right now, but she's not in my care. Like I said, that's before the court. But you know what my son told me? And I asked him, I said, son, how you felt? And I thank God because you know my son told me? He said, Daddy, I felt so alone. He felt so alone.
I feel it for you, brother. Cry if you have to, brother. No shame in that. Lay it out.
And that hurt me. You know why that hurt me? He could have turned to cigarette. He could have turned to alcohol. He could have turned to gang. But he stand with God and pick up a book. And I said, son, don't go and do nothing wrong. I said, I was going for a vacation. I said, take a vacation. Don't do nothing. And he made me so proud, even though he said he felt alone. For 15 years, I raised him. 14 years, I raised his sister. And 10 years, I raised our next child, my last daughter. And all I asked your mother to do was to just watch you for 28 days and send you to school from Sandy Grande to Darbody. And you couldn't have done that. There's the fastest I see a transfer take place. Fastest.
So since you've been back out, the 3rd child that was in your care, the mother has now taken her away from you.
Yeah, and that matter is before the court.
Right, good. Well, I know the court will address that. I know the court will address that matter because legally you still have custody. So we'll leave that in that regard.
And but, in that case, that hurt me, but I decided to leave her there because she already switched school already and it would be interfering with her. The man not going to feel nothing, I not going to feel anything. It would be a child falling back. So I decided to leave her with the mother until the matter.
And the thing is, Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Nicholas' issue isn't over, you know, because there are other warrants, as we said, for that first child that is still out. So it means, and committal warrants as well, right, Nicholas? It means that he is out now and he may go back again if something isn't done. And this is exactly why I want to do 2 things again. I want to encouragement, because Nicholas have to be real too, that you are human too. If you need assistance, you would need assistance financially, and you have the same rights as anyone else, no matter what society say, to go before a court, not because they don't like the mother. If you and the mother could do it without going before a court and only could make a justifiable financial agreement, no problem. But if you all have gone before the court and somebody has already been given custodial care of the child, which is you in the case of the last three, then you cannot hesitate to ask for reoccurring contribution, because the expenses are reoccurring. And just as what happened to you, you're not immortal. You got in an accident, you're not working again, and you couldn't catch up with paying off the maintenances that would have accrued before. So the first preventative measure for persons who have other children in their care while they're paying maintenance of others, particularly if you have court-ordered care, make sure and apply for maintenance as well from their mothers. There's no sin in that regard. And secondly, know the laws. Know the laws for yourself. Section 27 has all the enforcement laws of the Family Act of Trinidad and Tobago when it comes to maintenance. Go through the laws and make suggestions to the magistrate. A magistrate looked at me in a case with Marlon Thompson years ago and told me to tell him which part in the law that he could suspend and revive maintenance. When it is written in the law, section 21(2) of the Family Law Act gives the magistrate that power, so that if somebody like yourself or somebody who falls on hard times, COVID had just passed, many people still have maintenances from there, or somebody who's lost their job and can't get a variation in time, because there's a lot of maintenance accrues when persons are injured on their jobs or when persons lose their jobs for a period of time, and there's now a recurring expense, which is the maintenance, and no recurring income, and it is allowed to accrue for a period of time. You must know, men and women both who pay maintenance, that you go to the court, you apply for a variation, but also make mention of section 21(2), because they may give you a 2 months to the variation hearing. Ask the magistrate, based on the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, if this maintenance could be suspended at this point in time and then revived upon the hearing of the variation. There are laws that these things can be done. We again reach out to the judicial forces, the Chief Justice. I don't know how many more times we're going to write you, but we reach out to you to approach the judicial officers, to use the laws that are before them, particularly in cases where you see non-custodial parents are custodial parents of other children, and cases when you see non-custodial parents have lost their jobs or have fallen on some terminal or for some lengthy time, some illness that will last for a lengthy time. It makes no sense incarcerating any person when it comes, particularly ones you could ascertain clearly are not negligent or are not abusing the opportunity or failing purposely to pay maintenance. It makes no sense to take that person, imprison them, now render them onto unemployment, then expose them to a different society that they may be uncomfortable or not accustomed to in the criminal justice system, then for them to return out into our society, unemployed again, to now find a job, to then have to re-enter into the system if they don't find one in time to pay the maintenance that has not been put on suspension. It makes no sense. It is counterproductive to the members of our society. It is counterproductive to the children in the family homes, and it is counterproductive, as I just asked Mr. Nicholas Lee, the impact, the psychological impact and the emotional impact that you have on the children. I have seen it so many times when fathers are being dragged away to prison So most times they're being dragged away to prison for a child from another home, but the children in the home are seeing the dragging process of their father going to prison. It is the most emasculating feeling for men, and it is the most embarrassing feeling for children as well. And I am yet again saying that we, as a society that's supposed to be a society of intelligent men and women, can find better alternatives or utilize the current alternatives that we have in our legislative works, particularly so in section 27(2)(a). You see how many times I keep repeating it, where goods, chattels, and other measures can be held or withheld until payment is made towards the contribution, the upkeep of the child. So, Nicholas, in your current situation that you know more warrants are out, you being a police officer, have you been able to go back to the service, get back your job? Are you in fear that you may now not be able to apply again, or if you get your job again, you'll be recycled back into the system again? How is your everyday feeling now since you've been out? What are your projections for this situation that you're now in the center of?
Well, Mr. Fields, I was told that well, I've known that maintenance is not a criminal offense, and that I need to do up a report as such and go back to the office and drop in my report, and I would be I wouldn't say reinstated because I'm currently on injury leave. But they said the job is definitely there to go back to.
Right. But
so
you can't say that.
Yeah, I'm currently doing up the necessary stuff, documents, to go back out to work.
Right. And in this current situation now that you've been out, you have no employment, you have a warrant out for you at this point in time. I mean, what's your mental state generally? I mean, we're talking about you getting back your job, we're talking about you being a police officer. But I mean, just as a human being, give us an insight of what your nights look like. What is your mental state at this point in time, so that people have an understanding of what the kind of anxiety this thing could bring?
Mentally, since the accident, talking from the accident to now, I haven't been 100% fit. I have headaches because it's a fractured skull. I'm healing from since 2022. I have headaches going and coming. Physically, my left hand, it's always numb. My whole left side feels heavy. When it comes to the aspect of rent, right now currently, if I don't make up no rent money this month here, I will be evicted. Right? One thing I make sure and do, Mr. Fields, I make sure that my kids are in school every single day.
I mean,
but mentally, I am not in a good place at the moment.
Understand. And I mean, I want to encourage you and support you, Nicholas. As I said, we've known you a while. I mean, I could pitch back to the original story when we met Nicholas Lee. He had his 2 children in his care. This was nearly about 10 years ago. And he, very similar, the same first child. He wasn't working at the time because he was the sole caretaker of his 2 children. And warrants had came out back in those times. He wasn't a police officer as yet.
No,
I remember at that point, someone came forward when we highlighted his case and would have helped him pay that warrant at that time. And I must commend Nicholas, because after that, he went out, he looked for a job, he found a job, he became a police officer, he put things in place. So I was very, very, very heartbroken to hear, due to him falling on hard times, particularly after the accident he would have endured, that at this point in time, he's now facing being regurgitated in this crucial way. Nicholas, have you gotten a medical? Have you written to the medical board? I think there's a medical board in the police service or so. Have you written to them?
No, I haven't.
Have you written to the police association, the president of the police association, explaining your scenario? Are you getting some portion of your salary still since this has happened after the accident?
September last year, my salary was cut.
So it means that right now, presently, you have no way or no recurring income coming into your home at this present point in time. Facing the warrants and still having to take care of these children that are in your care.
And that is correct, Mr. Faze. I get a little assistance from the church I attend.
Right.
And to go back, when I do go back out to work, I will be limited. That is for sure. So I wouldn't be able to function as I used to function before. Sometimes my hand just lose feeling, and whenever I hold my hand fall on the ground.
So has the TTPS offered any, since this happened on the job, has the TTPS offered any type of compensation? Have you written the commissioner? Are you trying to do these things so that you could be compensated? Because if this happened on the job, there should be some level of compensation for the service that you have provided for Trinidad and Tobago. Have you tried these things as yet?
No, I haven't written to the commissioner. Like I say, when I have to go to the office with my report, and I will address all these issues when I get there, which will be next week.
So Trinidad and Tobago, I wanted to understand the circumstances. You see, because sometimes you go see a big maintenance warrant come out, and the first thing that is coming people's mouth is, that is a deadbeat father, that is a no good father. Or somebody plaster your face on some popular show and say, hey, we're looking for your own XYZ maintenance. Not knowing the types of ways maintenances accrue. I am not ever going to say there aren't some persons who are negligent. But there are provisions in the law to deal with those who are willingly negligent also. But there are many more people I know that have fallen on hard times via accident, via sickness, via loss of employment, via credible reasoning. And these maintenances accrue because the laws that are already enshrined in our legislation are not being utilized. Maintenances in these scenarios are allowed to accrue. People try for variations. Magistrates will never or do not ever say, hey, Mr. Lee, we understand you was in an accident. Mr. Lee, we know you have children, or anything like this. And then say, let us suspend this maintenance and let us possibly write to the social welfare to see if the child could be maintained for an interim period until you get yourself back up and able. No, they will allow the maintenance to accrue. When the maintenance accrues and you cannot pay the maintenance, they will then come and arrest you and put you in prison. Still, your imprisonment is not going to maintain the child. It is going to do nothing more than just imprison you and put you in a worse financial position to help towards the upkeep of that very child you imprison. It is now going to put your other dependents in a vulnerable position where they now need somebody that they could financially depend on. I cannot for the life of me understand how learned magistrates and judges will not take 5 minutes, particularly when it is a male, and assess that this will be counterproductive for this gentleman, counterproductive for the child we are going to arrest him for, counterproductive for his other dependents if he has another family, and counterproductive for our general society at large. We are seeing in numbers and in droves men becoming involved in all kind of criminal behavior. Why are we going to put men, not just put them, see that they're an a situation where they need assistance, fail to assist them, then put them in an environment that can easily negatively influence them to want to earn a negative influence forced income, influence driven income, and then put them back out in society. I once again appeal to our Chief Justice, to our leaders. You see, it's a situation too, Nicholas, that we can't really call on the legislators to legislate more. It is really for the Chief Justice to call on his judicial officers to act with more integrity, to utilize the laws in the ways in which for the purpose in which they were drafted. If you read the Family Law Act from section 27, go straight down to section 30, you would realize that the intent of Parliament when crafting that law was to leave imprisonment as a last resort, because I think even they knew it is counterproductive to society and even counterproductive to the state financially to imprison or incarcerate anybody at the cost of $30,000 when we know the child they're being incarcerated could be maintained on a lot less than that. You're putting them in a position when they themselves are now becoming unemployable, and if unemployable, more so unable to help meet the need that is required of the child, the financial contribution. I have a serious issue with that. Nicholas, from your perspective again, as somebody who's gone through the system, who's been a police, who's carried mental support, who's been incarcerated, what is your view as somebody, as a man going through this particular scenario? What is your view of the judicial system, the court system? Do you think there's anything that could be done differently from your gauge as a person that has gone through the experience yourself?
Mr. Fiz, to be honest, a lot more could be done, and a lot more should be done. And I say this because as a person who was incarcerated, right, I have seen inmates came through there with ankle bracelets on bail for serious offenses with ankle bracelet. And a man who is incarcerated for maintenance. As I just said, it could be lost a job. I mean, how is he going to pay maintenance when he's locked up? And then the other siblings, the other children, what is going to happen to them as well? So I think a lot more could be done, and I believe that this thing with the ankle bracelet could be sufficient. And I'm saying this because, okay, with the ankle bracelet, I'm not a master or judge or anything, but this is my thoughts on it. All right, you come before the court for maintenance, 6 weeks, right? Within that 6 weeks, you have an ankle bracelet on your foot, you're going to work. Within that 6 weeks, you're getting pay. You have to be home by a certain time.
Correct.
So it's not free for all. But to go inside a prison, where and another thing is, what is child maintenance? It's not a criminal offense. So what is it classified as? A minor offense? What is a minor offense in Trinidad? Our offenses deemed offenses classified, because if a man who charged for human trafficking can have an ankle bracelet.
Correct.
Who's a man for maintenance? What is human trafficking classified as? Is that a minor offense? Is maintenance a criminal offense? Because that's what it's looking like.
Well said. And that's the point we've been making with the introduction of the ankle bracelets into our criminal justice system, or into our justice system on the whole. You've now given an opportunity to be able to track the person. So you know to yourself that, hey, what, if we're going to, this person is out on maintenance, we could see that he it's not that he was blatantly neglecting the child or so. He has his ankle bracelet. We know when he's going to work. Even if you have to put him with a parole officer, if you have to develop a system with a parole officer that is linked through the Ministry of Works or the Ministry of Labor, where you could find some type of employment. You see, we need to understand the purpose of a maintenance order. The purpose of a maintenance order is not to lock you up, or not to frighten you. It is to extract the financial contribution from the non-custodial parent. So you must not do what is counterproductive to extracting that payment. You must introduce measures where you can make the person viably employable or employed, so that money can be extracted from them while you put a limitation on their freedom. So as you rightfully said, if you put that ankle bracelet, you have a curfew when you need to be inside, right? Because you still can't feel like it's free for all, because you still have a obligation that you've messed up on, or you've fallen short of, possibly for some other reason. You can't say that you have a maintenance order and then you're in the casino. So you should have that ankle bracelet on, so you're not in no casino, you're not in no bar, you're not in no place where money can be wasted. And I ask myself, why haven't our leaders thought of these things? We are putting persons who are not criminally inclined, risking their lives. You know how many men who have been killed in prison because who went for maintenance? You know how many men who are sick and were sent to prison still, irregardless of the law in section 27(4), and died in prison? I spoke to particular prison officers that some men come in into maintenance with heart failure every other day. It takes them so much effort to get the person to get, if it's dialysis, get the person to get to the hospital. That is better they don't come inside of there at all, because it is a strain on the public purse and even the resource of the prison service. And I realize, it seems to me, that many of our judicial officers don't know what's in the law. Mr. Anson Mohammed, who is still a kidney patient, this is somebody we represented quite recently, and they threw out, thank God now, they threw out the maintenance eventually. This man has heart failure. This man has kidney failure. He lives on 12% of his heart. Brought the information to the magistrate, and the magistrate is saying he's on a disability grant to maintain his current dependence that he lives with his wife and his daughter, and is showing that there's no way that he could pay maintenance. The magistrate turns to him and tells him, sure, he could go in our office and pick up our phone and answer our phone, which legally he cannot do, or he will lose his disability grant. So I question if these magistrates even know the law, some of them, that are chosen to adjudicate over us. It should never take Rondell Fields or the Single Fathers Association to have to highlight a scenario like this for a magistrate to do what he must or she must. Right after we highlighted the scenario, they threw out the court case, only to find out also warrants was out for the man while the mother was collecting welfare for the child already. I do not understand what is taking place in our judicial system, but our judicial system is failing when it comes to these things. And as we're dealing with maintenance this week, we're highlighting some of the issues that we've dealt with. We've dealt with issues of maintenance. We believe strongly that the laws pertaining to paternity fraud must be instituted when you're dealing with maintenance. Are you aware how many men are incarcerated for children that aren't theirs? We've saved many a man, Marlon Thompson, Nicholas Julian, a number of men that are incarcerated or about to be incarcerated for children when we do paternity testing on them were never biologically theirs. How in this world, where we now have DNA testing, we are a progressive world, we are still dealing with presumption of fatherhood? The presumption that if a man and a woman is married, automatically that child is his biological child. When we know infidelity is a common thing. The presumption that if a man signs a birth paper, that he is automatically the biological father of this child. I believe additionally, or we particularly believe, that before any maintenance order is issued, there should be confirmation of paternity, especially if you want to incarcerate the person for non-payment. The number of persons that have been incarcerated, we highlighted recently as well another section of the law, section 27.5. Because for years, I think things have changed now since we've highlighted it and since court pay has been introduced. For years, when it was the old system, men were going to jail, and while in jail, maintenance was allowed to accrue. Section 27.5 of the Family Law Act said that must never happen unless otherwise ordered by the magistrate or the judge. Because this is what was happening. When you were in prison, while you sat in prison for a month or so, you came out with another warrant, and the person, if they chose to, took out that warrant and sent you back in jail again. These things have for years been unlawful to do and have been done in our court system. I continue to admonish Trinbagonians who are involved in these custodial hearings, those who are paying maintenance. Go to the Family Law Act. Go from section 21, come straight back to 30 and edify yourself. Even if you don't have a lawyer, and I'm saying that particularly for you also, Nicholas, because you need to get before a magistrate again, and you know we will assess that best as we can. You need to get before someone again, and I know the warrants have been out now. So seeing the warrants have been out, the only solution you may have is possibly going to the High Court to have the warrant squashed. But before a warrant is even issued, you need to bring the section 27.4 to the knowledge of the magistrate. In particular instances, when you know that it wasn't just negligence, but you've fallen on hard times, you've lost your job, you become sick, you have a terminal illness, or you have dependents of your own, and you're not getting support in your particular scenario. These are some of the issues that we are having, and I'm very, very ashamed that our judicial officers are still not getting this right. I'm very ashamed that our politicians are not getting this right. We are still at this time thinking it is the most sensible thing as a society to imprison a non-custodial parent, more so when the person is male, because I have a number of fathers who are owed over $100,000 in maintenance, like Mr. Corey Francis. And the persons owing them have never been incarcerated for it. We need to find a better way to treating with the non-payment of maintenance. We need to be reminded of the value and the purpose of child maintenance, which is the extraction of this payment from the non-custodial parent, so that the child can become financially taken care of or financially stable. The intent is not to teach the man a lesson or teach the woman a lesson, but to try to extract their contribution in any way, form, or fashion in a sensible way. I am really, really, really sympathetic towards your situation, Nicholas. As I said, there's a number of warrants that are out for you. As I said, the only thing I could think of, we will speak to our legal persons as well in regards to seeing if the matter could be brought at a high court. I know that through our advocacy, we would have brought a matter through the high court where a warrant was quashed for Mr. Marlon Thompson, as I mentioned before. Hopefully that could serve as a precedent in this scenario, where possibly there could be a stay of the warrants, as there was a stay of the warrant in his scenario. His scenario was a little different to yours. The child was proven to not be his biological child, and there was a warrant issued for his arrest, and we were able to get a stay of that warrant, hopefully based on the fact that you have been injured once you have your medicals in order, hopefully based on the fact that you have dependents who, I mean, we can't risk, as I said, your son is 15 years old. And at that age, and what we're seeing going on with youths and the impressionable minds that they have, and that's exactly what triggers them to end up into bad behavior, that feeling of loneliness you said that he mentioned. So there must be some better consideration from our magistrates. Our magistrates need to be, I think, more emotionally intelligent. Sometimes I think they become too emotionally attached and they then stereotype and believe, well, all right, as particularly I've seen that happen with servicemen. If it's a policeman or army man, for some reason, it could just be my individual assessment. There's no level or measure of empathy towards these gentlemen in particular. They feel the full-blown go to prison, not even taking regard that, as Mr. Lee said, he would have transported some of the same men he was in prison with. His life was threatened while he was in prison. If he was killed in prison now, what would the headlines have read? Police officer in prison for maintenance, killed by another prisoner. Thank God it didn't happen. What would have been his situation? Not his, because he'd have been gone. What would have been his children's situation? The same one that you imprison him for. She would not be getting no maintenance again anyway. And his other children who are minors, what would have been their situation if their father had lost their life? Would that have been a better situation for him, for his family, for the next daughter, who possibly because I think she's 18 now, you told me, right? Who possibly now may think or want to connect with her father, as is many of the cases, now as she's an adult, may blame herself. May have blamed herself if something happened to him. I think it is nothing more than laziness when it comes to the first decision being made to imprison. Laziness by the court, laziness, no will, no power from our leaders to realize that this is a real current issue and that we have things, as you rightfully said, Nicholas. If a man could have an ankle bracelet for human trafficking, if a man could have, and not only human trafficking, there are persons who are arrested or charged outside right now on sexual offenses with bracelets. Given bail with a bracelet on sexual offenses with limitations. Don't go so close to the school, don't go so close to here, don't go so close to the other. Why can't we not now evolve and realize that what we are doing is actually counterproductive to the benefit of our society? You are regurgitating, particularly men, and we have to say it as it is, because you're not seeing them doing that with women. They're utilizing the Section 27(4) law with women. But with men, when they have the same dependents, when they have the same stories, when they've lost their jobs the same way, for some reason, and that is highly because of the lack of empathy for man in this society or men in our society, we cannot find prudence, emotional intelligence, and wisdom to say it will be best for this family if we understand that Mr. Lee is in her. We understand that the child is now 18 years old, an adult, and it is past warrants. So we, in this situation, even if there's a repayment to the money the mother spent, we cannot now take the parent who is a parent of minors, imprison him, and leave those children, with no custodial parent to take proper care for them for such an extensive period of time. It's really, really hurtful. It's really embarrassing to think that we and our judicial system, rather not we, hasn't realized the prudence of finding a better way. And I still think it is due to laziness. I still think it is due to complacency. I still think it is due to that apathetic spirit that we have. We just don't have the interest to do it. The easiest thing to do is to lock him up. Let him spend 30 days. The child still don't get no care. The state pay $30,000 for the 30 days he stay inside of the jail. He comes back out with no employment. We could just send him to jail again after and regurgitate a human being in a cycle while his children stay outside and possibly become vulnerable to the elements there. This is what we're doing with our society. Then we go out on pulpits and go out on podiums and go out in all the rallies and talk about we and and talk about what we're doing for our society. I hope, Trinidad and Tobago, that you are listening. I hope you are understanding. I hope you don't think this is for a certain type of person. I've seen men who've had the best of jobs, as I told you, from Petrotrin, very, very, very well paid at that point in time, from Asila Metal, and this some other one, I think it was Red Wing or Red Boot or something. And when the closures of these companies came, they all ended up in issues facing jail times as well. I saw workers at TSTT fall off ladders, break hands, and couldn't get, or didn't know rather, that the law had provision for the suspension of maintenance. And if the magistrate, the learned magistrate, is aware of this, even if you see a man come before you, or a non-custodial parent woman also, come before you, and they are injured, or they could bring evidence that they are injured, is it that you don't know the law? Or is it that you don't want to utilize the law, where you could suspend the maintenance for an interim, opposed to allowing this recurring bill that has the consequence of imprisonment to amount on top of their heads, knowing that they're not going to have a recurring income? And if that is the thing that you're doing, then that could never be justice in our justice system. Never. So, Nicholas, back to you again. I want you to give me an idea of where you think, or give me an idea where you believe this will land in the next month or so, practically, from what you're seeing happening. You say, I've told you all the things you can do, but tell me, in your mind, where you think this could land you. And the reason I'm asking that question, people may think, what kind of question is that? Is because I want people to see the psyche of somebody who knows this is hanging over their head and they have no way out.
As it stands, I could be without a roof over my head, me and my kids. I'm praying to God that when I go to the office, that my job is intact. Which it should be intact when it comes to the job. But right now, like I said, facing eviction, and I don't want to be negative, but it doesn't look positive in other aspects of my life right now.
I'm hoping that the Minister of Social Development, Ms. Donna Cox, I'm hoping that the things we're talking about are falling on ears. As I said, I thank Power 102 for this platform again. This is something that's going to be happening every Friday from 4 to 6 when we bring these real issues to you. In weeks coming, we're going to have some of our directors and outreach officers here, as well as we continue to bring men and even women at times that have these kind of issues taking place. As you lament on the fact that you may soon be homeless, I am hoping that the Minister of Social Development hears this. There are rental grants that can be accessed. I am hoping that somebody from the Ministry of Social Development, after hearing your situation, hearing that you've now been out of jail for a while, you've been incarcerated in a situation I find to be very unfair and unfortunate, because you're unemployed, because you got damaged on the job itself. I am hoping that they will reach out to you and extend this rental grant assistance. Reach out to your landlord or your landlady. I know the rental grant assistance goes to at least 3 months coverage. That is something as well. I mean, we'll talk about to try to get for you as well. But however, we know how long these things take. And if you have until month 10, this is why we are asking for the immediate intervention of the Minister of Social Development, so that this man and his children will have somewhere that they can call home. We are hoping that legally, and the sad thing is, unless we get somebody to do your case pro bono, which we will try with some of our guys, the sad thing is that it's a warrant and a committal warrant. And in maintenance, maybe I should explain this to people. Once a committal warrant is issued, there's no taking him, bringing him on that warrant and going back to the magistrate, you know. Once the committal warrant is issued, they pick you up and carry you straight to the jail. So that is the reality. So his children also will live in fear that at any point in time, daddy will be taken straight back to prison for another 30 days. And at this point, his older daughter or oldest daughter, who is going to be taken to prison for, is 18 years of age. While he has dependents in his home at this point in time, while he is nursing an injury to his skull on an accident that he endured while on duty as a police officer, while he is given his experience of what he's endured in prison as a police officer, the threats made on his life as a police officer, so that the next time he goes back, God forbid, if he doesn't go back, thank God, his life could be in immediate danger. So I am hoping that good sense prevail. I am hoping that the minister, as I said, Ms. Donna Cox, has her PS or has her field officers reach out to us to get in contact with you so that you could have the rental assistance. So at least that could be one stress off your mind. I can even make suggestion of legal aid for you, because the qualification for legal aid is as if it's a waste of time. Forgive me for saying so. So we will reach out to a couple of my law class students who have become attorneys now, and hopefully one of them, I will convince them to reach out to you and see if we could try to have that matter quashed before the High Court, so you're not faced with that regurgitation of this senseless system that we have developed in our country, and for some reason fail and continue to fail to evolve and change and come out of it. And Trinidad and Tobago, I mean, anybody listening, anybody hearing, going through these issues, remember the Single Fathers Association. Go to our Single Fathers Association page. We're going to be using this platform here on a Friday, as I said, from 4 to 6, where we're going to be airing issues and a number of relevant challenges that we see fathers face, even mothers face as well, because it's all about parenting for us. It's all about co-parenting. It's all about getting mothers and fathers to work together, getting mothers and fathers to co-parent towards the best interests of their children. One notable solution that we've always suggested, we suggested it to the Joint Select Committee in 2018 also, to rid ourselves somewhat in many a case when it comes to the issues we face with child maintenance, is shared parenting. Shared parenting. A study that we did that was sponsored by the European Union under the guidance of the Emancipation Support Committee showed that out of all the cases, and the cases we checked were cases where both mother and father applied for custody, and both mother and father were not deemed any threat to the child, and were both deemed as good enough parents to have custodial care, only 8% of those cases, shared care and control was ordered. Shared parenting orders were ordered. And we are saying that if shared parenting in situations where we see both mother and father care, want to be involved, and are capable of maintaining the child, capable of being custodial parents, either or. These cases should by and large have at least 90% of them ordered to be shared parenting. One party have the child 1 week, the other party have the child the other week. When no maintenance has to be paid, there's no issue, because when the child is with mommy 1 week, the mother has the maintenance issues, the maintenance responsibility for the child. When the child is with daddy the other week, daddy has the maintenance responsibility for the child. This is one of the easiest ways. Once you have information that both parties, after the court has done their assessment, after the court has sent out their probation officers and seen that both parties are able and capable of being responsible parents, or both of them being able and capable of holding custodial care of the child, which are many, we recommend shared parenting as another alternative to this whole introduction of the maintenance system in the first place. Because we are seeing that once the maintenance system comes into play, we are not seeing the alternatives to imprisonment being used. There seems to be a sluggish, lazy approach where we deem that the best thing or easiest thing or fastest thing or less stressful thing to do is to imprison persons for non-payment of maintenance. And with so many issues, as I've highlighted, there's the issue of persons being sick terminally, you want to imprison them still. There are issues of persons with a loss of employment, you want to imprison them still. There are persons who are custodial or court-ordered parents of other dependents. You are not getting support from the other parents on their side. You want to imprison them still. And this cannot continue. There are persons that are identified as well who are at the risk of being imprisoned for children that aren't even theirs. Not even their biological children. And this is how serious this issue on child maintenance has been, particularly when it comes to imprisonment. We have once again, we want to recap other alternatives. We asked our judicial officers to look at section 27(2)(a), where there's a seizure of goods, the seizure of chattels. If it sees the person's passport, it sees you seize the driver's permits, all these things could happen. We asked for the introduction also of the ankle bracelet, which I think is one of the best suggestions, seeing it's already being used for alleged rapists and alleged human traffickers. I see this as a solution to keep the person employable, even if it is under the guise of some type of probation or parole officer, where the person could be monitored, where they could be put on certain curfews, as we suggested, possibly no casinos, no bars, no places where they could spend money lavishly. Certain hours they to be out, to be in, so there is some level of restriction of freedom, so that it serves as a motivation to work towards payment and the removal of the ankle bracelet all the same. We also asked magistrates as well to use the provisions in the law. You realize it's just law I quoting for you guys, in section 27(4), again, that instructs the magistrate that if they can assess reasonably, and I think in Mr. Lee's case, it is a clear case reasonably. I think in the cases I've suggested before, when somebody has a terminal illness, it is reasonable. I think in the cases where people have lost their jobs, it is reasonable that these persons are not committed to prison. It's something that we've lamented on for years, something I've harped on for years, something where the association has continued to lament on for years. We brought it up in the joint select committees, and it's something that I think our Trinbagonians need to be serious about. Women and men need to be serious about it. Women can't think this applies to men alone. The law applies to both men and women. And also it applies to many of your sons. If you have an idea of how many women contact us on behalf of their new husbands or their husbands, rather, who had an issue with a past child or a past arrangement. Even though many women contact us on behalf of their sons, on behalf of their brothers as well, because they're faced with these kind of issues. So it has nothing to do that you're in support or we are in support of persons being negligent towards the upkeep of their child or their children. But in clear instances that I'm highlighting for the last hour, nearly going to 2 hours now, where there is provision in the law for the adjudicators to do better, we are adamant that it must be done because it is enshrined in the law and we are not seeing what we should be seeing from the judicial officers in Trinidad and Tobago. Nicholas, any kind of remarks you want to give? I know we're winding down to the end. And any remarks you want to give generally, as into your circumstance, what you're hoping for, what you hope could happen in this time to come?
I just want to take time out and say thank God for the opportunity for being on your show and highlighting the issues, not just my issue, but every other issue pertaining to child maintenance, whereas, like I say, the judiciary and the government just have to look at implementing other ways, because again, it all boils down to classification of these things. What is maintenance? All we know is that it's not a criminal offense. If it's not a criminal offense, then why are we treated like criminals? So I just would like the judiciary and the government and whoever is in charge to take a look at these things, and better could be done. And I think better should be done when it comes to child maintenance and the child, because incarcerating a father or a mother is going to hamper the child no matter the age. It is going to affect the child no matter the age. I have seen it. I have lived it. I've been on both sides of it. I have been incarcerated for it, and I've been in the presence when orders were being made. So I know what it is like on both sides for a man and a woman. So I just want to say thank God for there may be an opportunity to be part of this program, and I will continue to pray to God that everything would change in time to come, and betterment would come for the fathers and the mothers who are struggling like I am struggling.
And the remnant that time too that we have. I mean, in the finish, but I think I don't think we should leave without asking this very important question. Because I mean, apart from all the maintenance, apart from all the issues that you're facing, apart from all the I could imagine, because I know for years you've been battling with that particular situation with that particular child and mom. Not the child is not to blame in anything. What are you going to do? Or is it anywhere inside of you? Have you found it anywhere inside of you, seeing that your daughter is an adult now? Do you think, or are you hoping for? Because the monetary contribution is one thing, Nicholas.
Yeah.
But the bond and the closeness, the protection of our father, and I spoke at San Fernando Anglican Girls Anglican this week, and I was so glad to see so many fathers there in support of their daughters. You know, we equate father to son all the time, not knowing that there are many, many, many needs that a young girl has from her father. Tell me a little bit about your desires when it comes to her, when it comes to having a relationship with her, if any, and if you would ever make strides to do something like that. Even though, as I said, I don't know, just give us a little backdrop, because I'm not even sure if you have seen her in the last 10 years or so.
I have seen her before she turned 18 and before she turned 18. But prior to that, I mean, she was 14 years. She came home to my house and spent a weekend, and she came and she sat down. She said, "Daddy, I have something to tell you." I said, "What's that, baby?" She said, "Daddy, all these phone calls you've been getting is not me. All these messages sent from my phone is not me, it's mommy." So I said, "Baby, You have 4 years again. You've grown up with your mother. I'm not going to take you away, because you're already going to school and stuff like that. So you finish school. I'm not going to put you against your mother. Whatever you decide after you turn 18, I'm always here. I even reached out to the mother a couple of months ago, right? I think it was January. And
Right.
I said, I need to speak to you and my daughter. And she never responded in a positive manner. I said, if you want, I'd like to meet you. If you want to come to my home, you can meet in an area or something. Just to meet and have a one-on-one with my daughter who's 18, so I could actually have a discussion with her, because she told me certain things and I didn't shun her. I didn't tell her, go be bad to mommy. I left it as is so that she would decide when she reaches 18 what she would want to do with her life when it comes to her father. And I think I made the right decision by not pressuring her to choose between mother or father. And I think that is what she's going through at the moment, even at the age of 18. Because if at 14 you could have sat down with me and had this discussion with me, then why everything changed now? So I know my daughter loves me. I know that. And every time I talk to her, I would say, Daddy love you, right? Daddy love you to death, And I'll always keep telling her that, so that she knows that daddy always here. But then for 18 years, you're hearing your father twice, 3 times, probably 5, 6, they say 10 times for the year. But for the past 18 years, 364, 365 days, probably hearing your mother saying other things. So I don't want to be judgmental, but I know my daughter loves me, and I know I have something to do with my daughter, whereas have a discussion with her, and I would have a discussion with her. I'm not running from that. That's my daughter. I brought her into this world. I love her. Just say I love my other children. That's my first child. That's my princess. That's my queen.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Because it is the social perception I realize with most persons, and I'm very, very glad to hear that, and I commend you for that. That we love to colloquially say you don't mind your children. You understand? We don't understand the value of raising children. We don't understand sometimes those children, though we understand financial contribution is important, we don't understand what the child really wants is that emotional bonding, that emotional connection to daddy, emotional connection to mommy. There are some children I can tell you who living with daddy every day, living with mommy every day, and have no emotional connection to them. Even though they're getting all the shoes, all the clothes, all the everything financially, they have no intimacy, connectivity, or bond whatsoever. And I think as a society, we have seemed to equate raising children as mining children, meaning financial contribution. Because I'll tell you also, I have seen explicitly where there are some fathers who will pay maintenance religiously. You could never lock them up. You could never imprison them. But they will never have nothing to do with each child. And this happens most times when it's a child that was not out of wedlock, but extramarital affair and these kind of issues that we see. And it's a real situation. So it's time for us as a society to start to realize that a maintenance or payment of maintenance isn't an exclusive declaration of love or care for any child. It is the time. There are some fathers and some mothers who are non-custodial parents who honestly are falling on hard times and honestly may not have a job at this point in time, but honestly want to be involved still. But it is due to the embarrassment, or it is due to the emasculation, or it's due to the belittling, if it's a man who has custody, belittling the mother as well, of the other parent, that sometimes they stay away because they feel shameful. But there are many people who may not be able at a certain point or juncture in their life to financially support, but they want to emotionally contribute. And I want to encourage mothers and fathers out there today who have custodial battles, custodial issues, maintenance battles, maintenance issues, to learn to shelve most of the time, which is the intimate past that is causing all the altercation. Sometimes it's not the maintenance money, not being paid. It is the past hurt or past trauma that is still being carried is what is causing all the disagreement. And the maintenance payment no longer is a form of support for the child, but it now becomes a form of retribution. And in situations where that is the case, I want to admonish parents against that. I don't care if it's the man, I don't care if it's the woman. Which one that may be doing that or performing that type of behavior, I want to advise against it, because generally it destroys the lives of the children. It destroys the lives of the children. That discord, that disjointedness, that constant confusion between mother, between father, always having an altercation. These children are sometimes the most children that are the easiest high-strung children. When they go in school, they're fighting, they're angry, they're always agitated, they always have issues because they've never seen peace between their parents. Parents can't find a place to co-parent peacefully, even though they are not together. It is time for us to understand the ways that we could contribute in a child's life to ensure the child develops well. Financial contribution is important, yes, but financial contribution isn't the sole contributing factor for raising a positively influenced child in the society. There must be some moral connection, emotional connection, some mentorship, or some womentorship as well from mommy, from daddy. And we have to be able to appreciate that. We don't want to wait an opportunity when mommy loses her job if she paying maintenance to belittle her, or when daddy loses his job when he paying maintenance and you plaster him on Facebook or you post him up somewhere and say he's a deadbeat. When you know genuinely in yourself that he just fall on hard times, or you know genuinely in yourself that you may be traumatic, you may be going through a traumatic experience that you just didn't really heal from as yet. I have seen too many mothers and fathers not be able to put their intimate issues beside them, their past beside them, to be able to forge partnerships. And then I must say also, in the minority though, I've seen parents who've been stellar at it. Daddy lost his work here, mommy understand daddy lost his job. She don't belittle him. She say, hey, come and do X, Y, Z now. Come and help out here. You still have your car? At least take them to school. This will help me financially. Hey, bring some groceries this week. This will help me this way. We've seen parents do that as well. We've seen parents raise their children without having to go to the court. The court isn't the ultimate place that you must go when you separate, you know. That is where you choose to go. That is where we are socially cultured to go. But the court should be the last place you want to go. You, mother and father, as adults, should be able to have the intelligence, the maturity, and emotional control to say, hey, I could do what's in the best interest of my child as a mother. And the father say, hey, I could do what's in the best interest of my child as a father. Both appreciating the contribution from either parent and both understanding along the way you all going to face challenges. It's as simple as that. But the level of retribution we are seeing ends the scenarios just as your scenario is here now, Mr. Nicholas Lee. So, I mean, in closing, from on my end and from the Single Fathers Association on Trinidad and Tobago, as I say, we are now called the Fathers Association on Trinidad and Tobago. I know people still accustomed to hearing us as the Single Fathers Association on Trinidad and Tobago. I want to continue admonishing parents. I want to continue encouraging fathers to continue to fight to be involved. I continue to encourage mothers to allow fathers where they want to be involved, encourage fathers who are not pulling their weight or want to be involved to become more involved. And when I say involved, I'm not talking about the involvement you hear many people speak about that is just financial contribution. I'm talking about making time to invest in your children, your personal time. Go to the PTA meeting, go to the sports day, go to the swim competition, go to the cricket game, go to the football game. These are the things that your children will remember. They're not looking to see how much money you spend at this point in time. They are looking to see how much of your time that you could invest in them. They are looking to see how many memories they are able to build with you. How many times when they become adults, they could have flashbacks of mommy being there and her daddy being there. Whether you all are together or whether you all are apart. So Nicholas, I must thank you for being here, for sharing your story. I know it's not easy to come forward, particularly seeing that you are a police officer as well. I mean, and there are certain stereotypes that may be casted. I am very appreciative that you came and you inveigled this enticing discussion today so that we could highlight a number of laws that could be used and a number of new best practices that we could suggest to those in power to implement so that, I mean, we actually make, if there is still to have a maintenance system, a system that actually the non-custodial parent can find a way to assist the custodial parent without anybody having to be imprisoned and any of the dependents of any side having to suffer. Anything we want to say before you leave today?
Yeah, I just want to say to the listening audience, Mr. Fields and panel, whatever we do as a parent, we always have to put God first. Because I am saying this from the bottom of my heart. God, have my children where they are today because of prayers. And I want every single parent to know never to give up on God. He's the way, he's the truth, he's the light. Teach your children the word and show them how to forget the world. And that is one of the important things in parenting.
Amen, brother.
So thanks again to you and the panel. And thank God above all.
Amen, brother. Amen. And I not for the life of me, I don't know how people say that men don't express emotion. I think you guys have seen enough videos with me where men have cried their eyes out shamelessly because men are emotional beings too, but they just like to be heard. If they realize somebody listens with intent and somebody really is concerned and cares, you will see a man open up his emotions. And that is why you would see on many a highlight that we've highlighted, men feel comfortable because they realize we're not doing this for the show. We're doing this because we care and we love them. And we understand that even men go through issues as well. So once again, we must salute Power 102 for giving us this voice, giving us this song. This is something we've wanted for years to do now. We will continue to do it on every Friday evening. We encourage persons to tune in. We encourage you guys to tell other people to tune in next Friday, where we'll have more panelists, where we'll have other persons discussing a new topic again every single week. We're going to have the hard discussions as we had today. Not everybody will be pleased with it, but the right thing is the right thing, and the hard truths have to be told. So this is Rondell Fields and Nicholas Lee, and we thank you guys for listening to us today, and we're looking forward to having you with us every Friday. Once again, Mr. McIntyre, back to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so very much, Mr. Fields and Nicholas. It was very interesting of the information you guys shared today, and we look forward to next Friday's edition of Hard Talk with the parents, the Single Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. It was really informative. Thank you so much. So that's it, folks, for today's edition of Hard Talk for today, Friday. And of course, it's the first edition featuring the Single Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. Stay tuned. We'll have another edition next Friday. Come Monday, we have Denise Deming, who will be joining Karen Nunez Teixeira for Hard Talk Monday. And of course, Farid Ali on Wednesday. On Tuesdays, it's with me, yours truly, David McIntyre, and I'm hoping to do cultural work as normal. I have a Mythco, the pan production and manufacturing pan company from Jacob Martin, and lots more. So stay tuned. News straight ahead.
The future of talk is here. Power 102 Digital.